Good morning. We're going to be getting started in about 2 minutes. Dr. Warnery is on the line right now, but we're going to give everyone just a little bit longer to get logged in, and then we'll get started. All right, welcome to today's webinar. Today we're going to cover the current situation with MERS in the Middle East with Dr. Ulrich Wernery. Dr. Wernery is the scientific director of the Central Veterinary Research Lab in the UAE, and he has extensive experience with MERS. This webinar was prepared by Dr. Wernery, and any expressions expressed are the author's own. And with that, I would like to welcome Dr. Wernery and let him begin.
Hello to everybody. You are 8 hours behind. Here in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates, it is 7 o'clock in the evening. So I say good morning to you, and you can say good evening to me. I'm a German veterinarian, specialized in microbiology. In Berlin, I studied in Berlin, and years later became a professor with the Venia Legendi, which means permission to lecture. The subject is exotic infectious animal diseases. This subject had already my interest when I was a student, and therefore I went with my family on a world tour to see infectious diseases in animals with my own eyes. My wife is a veterinary virologist. So we started in Somalia, and my job was in a laboratory in Mogadishu, the capital of Somalia, to produce vaccines against two important bovine diseases, rinderpest and contagious bovine pleural pneumonia, CBPP. Several vaccine teams controlled both diseases, and as you know, rinderpest is now fortunately eradicated from our planet a couple of years ago. This was a huge achievement. It is the second infectious disease after human pox, which has been globally eradicated by human efforts. By the way, the next disease on the eradication list is peste des petits ruminants, PPR, also a virus disease, which the World Health Organization for Animals, the OIE, thinks can be eradicated by 2030. In Somalia, I had my first contact with the dromedary or one-humped camel. They also call it here the Arabian camel. This species became my favorite animal species. From Somalia, we moved to Papua New Guinea, north of Australia, where I worked on pig and poultry diseases. After some years in Germany, we finally moved to Dubai, where I established the Central Veterinary Research Lab, CVRL, and where I could concentrate and satisfy my research interest on the dromedary one-hump camel. I'm telling you all this in more length because I want you to realize how diverse our profession is. It is all about making lives of animals more pleasant, more worth living. Our and your career gives us a chance to make a real difference for the animal and its owner alike. So more or less that was my introduction. And now we come to the subject, MERS in the Middle East. MERS suddenly appeared in 2012 on the Arabian Peninsula, and so far more than 2,200 laboratory confirmed human cases have been reported with a case fatality rate around 40%. This is quite high, but lower than other diseases like Ebola. But if you calculate so far more than 800 people have died from MERS. And today I read ProMed, and again yesterday 4 more cases were reported. MERS is caused by a coronavirus named MERS coronavirus and belongs to lineage C of the RNA beta coronaviruses. And without doubt, that is very important, the dromedary or one-hump camel is so far the only reservoir of MERS coronavirus. In 2012, it suddenly spilled over from the dromedary to humans. And now the big question is, why did this spillover occur and why in 2012 and not earlier or not later? Nobody can really answer these questions. The other question, which can be answered a little bit better, easier, is where did the camels get the virus from and why only dromedaries? It is assumed that camels got it from bats because coronaviruses like bats. When the first scientific papers on MERS appeared, a flood followed, and soon it became very clear that dromedaries possessed antibodies against MERS decades before the human outbreak. I had, for example, when I came to Dubai 30 years ago, stored 50 sera, and I tested these 50 sera against MERS antibodies, and about 95% of these sera stored 30 years ago had already MERS coronavirus antibodies. It was then obvious MERS coronavirus had already circulated in dromedaries decades ago, maybe even longer, we do not really know. It emerged that more or less MERS coronavirus antibodies were found in all countries where the dromedaries are reared. And now comes my first slide. The map you can see here, Middle East, Africa, and South Asia. Everything which is red, can see the people found, scientists found antibodies against MERS coronavirus or its RNA. There are many blue ones in North Africa, but that means they have not been tested. Animals or camels had not been tested. So it is more or less whole Arabian Peninsula with Saudi Arabia, Oman, United Arab Emirates. Here, the blue one, Yemen, no test has been done. But of course, Somalia, Ethiopia, and Kenya. So antibodies against MERS coronavirus were detected in Somalia with a camel population of 6 million dromedaries, followed by Sudan with 2 million dromedaries. Kenya, 1 million dromedaries, and Saudi Arabia, 1.2 million dromedaries. In the United Arab Emirates, we have about 300,000 camels, dromedaries. In all these countries, more or less, camels are kept for milk production, especially in East Africa, especially in Sudan, Ethiopia, and Somalia, for transport as well, and in Saudi Arabia and here in the United Arab Emirates, as you know, for racing. Now, interesting, MERS coronavirus antibodies were not found in Bactrian camels, which live further east, so China, Mongolia, Kazakhstan, and all the inner Asian countries. And no antibodies were found in dromedaries in America, Europe, and no antibodies were found in South American or New World camelids, llamas and alpacas, for example. I'm referring, of course, to the natural acquired antibodies. If you infect these species, the Camelidae species, they will produce antibodies after artificial infection. Generally speaking, approximately 95% of all adult dromedaries above 3 to 4 years possess MERS corona antibodies. At CVRL here at the laboratory, we necropsy hundreds of dromedaries annually, which die from diseases completely unrelated to MERS, such as selenium deficiency, salmonellosis, clostridiosis, cryptosporidiosis, and other diseases, but we have never isolated the MERS virus from adult dromedary. Every adult dromedary which we necropsy is tested for the virus, for the MERS virus, by PCR and also by virus isolation on virus. And you can see the next picture here. That's our necropsy hall. I'm standing here with the blue overall, 6 dead camels lying around. We have 3 pathologists. I'm not really a pathologist, but I often help. And we are always very, very busy because we are doing hundreds of postmortems. Many of them, of course, are camels, as you can see here. So all these adult camels, which you see here on the picture, these are adult camels older than 3 to 4 years old. Camels are adult when they are around 4 to 5 years, have antibodies and are therefore most probably immune. In these animals, we never find the virus. So these animals must have received their infection much earlier. As they are all serologically positive, there must be a lot of virus around somewhere. We tested, therefore, many different animal species in the vicinity of camel herds, of camel farms, including pigeons, rats, rodents like mice and rats, yes, ticks, biting tabanid flies, sheep, goats, horses, but did not find the virus nor the antibodies. The question is now, where do the adult dromedaries get their infection from? This is still more or less a mystery. They all have antibodies. Transmission from dromedaries to humans is rare, it's uncommon. But it is confirmed that camel caretakers, camel owners, get the disease from their camels by very close contact, for example, when they kiss their animals on the nose, or when they poke their fingers in the nose of a camel. It's quite common, especially when racing camels win a race, that the owner comes and kisses the animal on the nose and embraces the camel. I'm completely against it because you never should do that. You should kiss your husband or your wife. The virus, however, is present in the camel nose. That's what we found out. And camels do not get sick. They are carriers of the virus. And therefore, we are dealing here not with a camel disease, we are dealing here with a camel infection. As mentioned earlier, transmission from dromedaries to human is quite uncommon. Serological investigation we did in humans revealed a low or no seroprevalence in people even with frequent contact with dromedaries. So we tested on our dairy farm 250 caretakers, and only one person had MERS corona antibodies, but he was not sick. All others were negative. So it is not easy to get the virus from the camel. As I said, you need very close contact. So there are several reasons for this. Why don't we see more cases? Can you give me the next one? The next figure? Yeah, here. So when calves are born, they immediately receive maternal antibodies. You can see on the top, the red line are the mothers, the maternal antibodies. All the mothers are positive, high antibodies. They, of course, put the antibodies into the milk. So the newborn crier will drink the milk and immediately has high amount of antibodies. When the antibodies slowly disappear, as you can see here from the graph, they are free of antibodies. That means they are susceptible to the infection. And this is a period between, as you can see, 4 to 6 months. This is the dangerous part of their whole life. And during this time, they got infected by a field virus and produced, after 200 days, as you can see here, antibodies, and they most probably will remain for a long time in the adult animals. And therefore, as I have said, in adult animals, you do not find the virus. However, you find the virus exactly in this small window between 6 to 4 months when the calf has no antibodies. And the calves, as we know, has the virus in the nose, but only for 8 days. But during this time, it can infect people or it can infect other calves by very close contact. With our investigation, we could find MERS is a seasonal disease or infection. We don't say disease. As you know, it is an infection, but the mystery still remains. Where does it hide when there are no calves? Young dromedaries, or the next reason why people don't get MERS easily is first this, the virus is only in the nose for 8 days. Second, young dromedaries are reared with their dams for 1 year. They stay with the mother for 1 year and they are very shy. And there's very little contact with humans. You only have contact when these animals are sick and when you have to treat them. And then you have to be careful. As a veterinarian or owner, you have to wear gloves and a mask because these calves can excrete the virus through the nose. Although they are not sick, you can't see it. They are sick from something else. Now, another interesting point, why there is a low transmission rate from dromedaries to humans seems to be the lack of MERS corona virus receptor dipeptidyl peptidase 4, so DPP4, in the human upper respiratory tract. We humans have this receptor only in the lower respiratory tract, and therefore we often develop pneumonia and not really another respiratory disease. As mentioned, camel to human spillover is there, but human to human is very common, or was very common, I have to say, especially in healthcare settings. You may know the publications about South Korea, where one person from Saudi Arabia came sick with MERS, and they had to close their several hospitals, and quite a large number of people died during the outbreak. So from this one person, it spread in hospital to many other persons. And of course, then, because people then go to other hospitals, it spread to other hospitals. 3 or 4 hospitals had to be closed down. And 1 second, I have to drink a little bit. And the virus was found on benches, in their laboratory gowns, and in the AC ducts. Of course, after all this, especially in Saudi Arabia and other countries, they are now much more careful with people with respiratory problems. They go in separate units, and therefore the situation, the health situation, has improved radically, and you see less human cases. However, today I read in the ProMed, yesterday there were another 5 MERS cases in Saudi Arabia. It would make sense to protect dromedary calves from MERS infection by a vaccine. Experimental immunization has already started using a modified vaccinia virus, this ANCA, the famous ANCA MVA virus, vaccinia virus, expressing the MERS corona spike protein. But for me, it would make much more sense to use our attenuated camelpox vaccine in combination with MERS coronavirus as Ducapox vaccine, that is the name of our vaccine, Dubai camelpox vaccine, is used here against camelpox, which is a very serious viral disease in Arabia. So to combine camelpox vaccine with MERS coronavirus vaccine would make much sense. And as I said before, most probably you do not have to vaccinate all the adult dromedaries because they are more or less have already antibodies. You should vaccinate the calves maybe from the age of 2 months to 8 months. For the time being, the world has to live with MERS. And not like SARS, which quickly disappeared when the civets, these special cats in China, when these civet markets were shut down, then MERS was gone. This, of course, then the source of infection was gone. This, of course, we cannot do with the camels. So that was what I wanted to tell you today.
Thank you, Dr. Warney. Does anyone have any questions? All right, I have one from Dr. Rothfeld. If you could type your question in either the chat box or the question box, and I can relay that to Dr. Warney. So I'm waiting for that question. Another one came in that asks, how well does the virus survive in the environment?
Oh, that's a very good question. First of all, one more comment from my side, I forgot. Not transmitted through the milk. That's the first thing. So how long? We do not really know. We do not know because we did not find really the source of the virus. And we tested many species, but we never investigated how long it will survive in the environment. I don't know that.
And then from Dr. Wright, he asks, what is the source of infection for calves?
For calves? Yeah. These are other calves. Not from the mothers, not from the milk, not from the mother's nose, because the mothers don't have the virus anymore, because most probably they have high amount of antibody. So, of course, calves play together, but we have seasons for calving. So the animals are born in winter. That means from November, December to March. During this time, we have MERS. And during this time, the calves excrete the virus. But in summer, no MERS. But we don't know where the virus hides. And there must be a lot of virus around because all the dams are MERS positive. So there are many questions I cannot really answer yet. We are looking for other sources. I told you the dromedaries most probably get the virus from bats, but we don't have a lot of bats in the desert. So there must be some other sources, not only the calf, from calf to calf. This is clear, but I'm looking for other sources which I have not found yet.
Wonderful. And we have another question that says, you mentioned kissing the camels as an exposure, but also said only calves were shedding. So is it kissing the calves that is the problem?
Yeah, there are some publications that by kissing camels on the nose, the owner got MERS and died. One case is also published in Saudi Arabia. The calf had some problems around the nostrils, and he put some cream around the nostril. So he put the finger more or less in the nose. He developed MERS and died.
Interesting. And then there's a question.
Very interesting.
There's a question that's asking what's being done to try to identify the source of the virus.
Yeah. The source of the virus. I only know it's a camel calf. And as I told you, we tested so many different animal species, including ticks and biting flies and mosquitoes, everything. We did not find the virus.
And someone would like to confirm, you said it is not transmitted through the milk, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then another question was wondering.
Also, just to comment further, these are, of course, adult milk camels. And these adult milk camels have all MERS antibodies. So they don't transmit the virus through the milk, only the antibodies. So maybe the MERS virus is neutralized by the antibody. But we have never seen any virus in the milk.
Wonderful. So there's a lot of questions. So I'm gonna keep going if you have time, Dr. Werner, to answer.
Please, because
okay.
we have lots of time.
Wonderful. Yeah. Okay, so there's a lot of questions. So the next question was, they were wondering whether these particular strains have been sequenced recently.
Yeah, they have sequenced, and we have also some special results of it. So there are locally different strains. So they differ a little bit in the genome. So, for example, the Saudi strains are different from the UAE strains. But they are all mingled up because many camels from here go grazing to Saudi and vice versa. But there are differences in the strains, yes.
Okay, and the next two questions I think you've answered already in your previous answer to another question, so I'm going to group them together. Has the virus been identified in any other species as a possible reservoir, specifically bats? And then could an insect reservoir or insect vector been evaluated?
Yeah, it has only been identified in dromedary camels. And dromedary camels occur in North Africa, East Africa, Northern Africa, and up to India. So this whole area, Middle East, has MERS coronavirus. But further east, to the Bactrian camel, to the two-hump camel, you never find any antibody. So it's a big, big area, but it is only in the one-hump camel so far. Of course, further investigation goes on, and maybe one day we will find the virus in other animals, but so far we haven't.
And the next question said, if the virus is only present in calf camels, can you elaborate on your statement that the virus is transmitted to the owners during race events? To his knowledge, only adults are raced.
Very unlikely, because racing starts with the age of 2. These animals, and older, up to 10 years, it depends how good the animal is. So it's a long racing season for camels, and these are mainly female camels which race, not all of them, but most of them, 90%, because they are more gentle and because they are faster than the males. And in winter, there's a rutting season, and the males do not like to race because of the rutting season. Anyway, So these animals are 2 years old and older. The danger that they get infected is over because they have already antibodies. They have been infected before when they were calves. As I showed you on the graph, they get infected when they are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months old, when the maternal antibodies has disappeared. Then they get infected, and then when they're 1 year, 1.5, 2 years, they have antibodies. So racing animals, it is, I mean, there are exceptions, but in general, racing camels pose no danger to the camel handlers or to the owner.
The next question asks, which age group of humans are most susceptible to the disease, or do co-infections in humans play a role?
Very much the last one, yes. Most of the people who have died from MERS had some concurrent disease, like diabetes. Very common with diabetes or elderly people, yes. There is a connection between concurrent disease and MERS.
The next question has a couple of parts. The question is it possible MERS-CoV has periods of recrudescence in adult dromedaries, and pregnancy and/or parturition leads to sporadic shedding? And did you follow up the virus over time?
Yeah, okay. Not really, but what I can say, we do a lot of postmortems. As you can see, animals of different age. So we also, of course, tested fetuses, and we never found the virus in the fetus. And we do not know if the virus is transmitted from the mother to the fetus. I don't think so, because the mother has no virus. So the infection is outside the mother. It is when the animals are 4 to 6 months old.
Thank you. And then we have a question asking you to repeat what you mentioned about the civet cats.
Sorry, can you repeat it?
Yeah, someone is asking the statement that you made previously during your presentation about the civet cats, if you could repeat what you said about them.
About the treated calf?
No, the civet cats. I think with the China, you were mentioning with the MERS-CoV in China, with the depopulation there for the reservoir, I think is what they're asking to repeat about.
I told you about the bacterium camel, the two-hump camel. Or I cannot really understand what you say.
Okay, I'll type you the question later, and then we can send out the answer to that. I'll make a note of who asked that question. We can do it via email then. The next question is, do most incident human cases outside the healthcare settings have documented exposure to camel calves?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now today, I told you yesterday, 4 more cases in Saudi. They all had contact to camels, but no more information. So how close the contact is, but you, as I said, you need very, very close contact to get the disease. So the spillover is not easy, but you have to have very close contact and only to a special age group of calf. Yes. So more or less, I see less cases in healthcare centers because they are aware of this problem and they have very good precaution nowadays. Now you see more cases in people who had very close contact to the camel, and most probably to calves. Yeah? And what I said also, if we as a veterinarian have to treat calves, you should just take some precautionary measures, because you have to catch them. They are quite wild. And so these are the animals which can transmit the virus to humans.
And our next question asks, if bats are presumed to be the reservoir, has an epidemiological association been identified which includes the movement of camels or nomads to or through more populated areas where there may be more access to or contact with bats?
Yeah, that is true. I mean, here the borders are open. They move camels from here to Saudi Arabia, to Oman, and so on, and vice versa. And of course, they have closer contact to caretakers because they go with these herds to grazing grounds, and the danger has increased, yes.
And there's a question if there's any bat species that are the source of the virus that have been identified.
There's one bat species in Saudi. They identified a small part of the virus. That's the only source I know of, which had so a small part of the virus in its genome. It is we call it mouse bats. So these are very small bats. We see them here also sometimes in Dubai, but they live in the city, not really under the roofs, not really in the desert. There are very rarely trees, so it's just sand. So I do not think that there are a lot of bats around. Yeah? But this has been most probably different years and years ago when there was more greenery, and this was maybe the time when the bats infected the camel. Yeah? But interesting is, I mean, from my talk you have heard, the animals have antibodies long time, maybe decades definitely, maybe centuries, we don't know. Why it suddenly spilled over in 2012.
And then there's a question about how old are camels when they start racing them?
2 years, 1.5 to 2 years, and then they race, it depends on their performance, up to 12 years, as said, all females, more or less, and then they go to the breeding. And they live about 30 to 35 years, and most probably they give birth to 3, 4, 5 criers during this time, 15 or 10 years to 30 years. And
Okay,
this was offspring for racing again.
and then I think you mentioned this in the very beginning of your presentation, but are there any places in the world where dromedaries do not get MERS?
Yeah, I said in Europe, in your country, United States, you have quite a big number of dromedaries. They have never found any antibody. It's only here, as you can see from the map. Yeah? And the same with llamas and alpacas. By the way, some American scientists have done the vaccine trials in llamas, also in Spain. You can use them because they belong to the Camelidae family.
Okay, and then I have a comment followed by a question by Dr. Salman. And so the comment is, the camelpox vaccine is administered to adult camels. Combination of the coronavirus with the pox virus may not produce sufficient herd immunity, particularly when the coronavirus is only present in the young animal. And then he follows up with a question is, has the serological test being validated for potential cross-reaction with other coronavirus, as it has been known for other tests used in feline?
No, nobody has done it, but it could be what you said, that if you add the coronavirus to the pox virus, that the immunity is not very strong. That's true. But I think if we really want to control coronavirus outbreaks, then we should vaccinate the young camels, and it can be done with a vaccine, only coronavirus vaccine. Yes. Because there are not many. I mean, young animals. So you do not have to vaccinate the whole camel population, only the ones between 4 and 8 months, let me say.
And then we have a question regarding what is the treatment for humans with MERS infection?
And then what was it?
What is the treatment for humans with MERS infection?
They use antiviral treatment. That is very important. And of course, isolation, they come first in isolation rooms where they treat it systematically, also against any bacterial disease, but mainly antiviral. And of course, all the other treatment with oxygen and so on. I mean, most of these people get pneumonia, and some also renal failure. So the virus also, in some, damages the kidney. But I'm not a human doctor. I'm not 100% sure what else.
Okay. And then a question, when you test for the MERS virus shedding in camels, do you use PCR or virus isolation?
Both. We have several tests. At first, we have serological tests, ELISAs, VNT, so virus neutralization tests. Then we have PCR tests, RNA later, so we take swabs from the nose, RNA later, and then go to the molecular biology lab, and we isolate the virus on virus cells. It grows very fast, very good, very fast. Yeah, and within 2 to 4 days, it makes a very typical CPE, and so the swabs go directly from the nose in virus transport medium. Interesting is we did some tests on camel calf nose. As I said, the virus is excreted only for 8 days, but you find RNA up to 32 days in the nose.
That's interesting. And someone asked you to comment on MERS-CoV season. Is the incidence higher in winter? And if so, can you comment on potential changes in the environment which might influence the peak?
Yeah, absolutely. That is true. That is a seasonal disease. We have mainly outbreaks. We isolate viruses. As I said, they are not disease, the animals, but we find viruses mainly in calves in winter when they are born. In winter, they're only born in winter. And in summer, we don't find viruses because there's no breeding season. And the temperature is most probably so high and the UV radiation is so strong that no virus remains. But these are the questions which are unsolved. Where does the virus hide? Does it hide somewhere in adult camels, but we never found it? Yeah? So it's somewhere, but we don't know where. But suddenly, when the first calves are born and they are out of the maternal antibody period, then they have virus. So there are some mysteries which we have not solved yet. Some of your colleagues have come over and worked with me.
And then we have a question. Have any serology studies on racing camel staff, specifically humans, obviously, been done?
Pardon, can you repeat?
Have any serology studies on racing camel staff, i.e. the human population, been done?
Oh, yeah. But they're very rare. So as I said, even we have a farm here where we isolated frequently the virus from these special calves. None of the caretakers had antibody to MERS. And the same in Saudi, and Hajj. So when they all go to Hajj, then they have to be very careful. They tested many people Also in rural areas, the prevalence is very low or not existing. But interesting also, maybe it is good to know that you know that during Hajj, they do not export camels from Africa. Normally, thousands and thousands of dromedary camels come via Djibouti from Ethiopia, from Kenya, from Tanzania, from other countries via Djibouti to the United Arab Emirates, to the Arabian Peninsula, also United Arab Emirates. But during Hajj time, there is no import. It's discontinued, not allowed, to avoid any outbreaks.
Okay, and then there's just a question, is camel milk commonly drank in the Middle East, and is camel meat eaten commonly?
Good question. People love camel milk over here. And it was my idea to convince my boss, Sheikh Mohammed, to build a camel dairy farm. He has built it 10 years ago, the most modern camel dairy farm in the world. I think that's the only one. We have 5,000 dromedary camels on this farm. We make about 800 camels. We produce around 10,000 liters per day, twice milking, morning and evening, and sell the milk in all these supermarkets, in hotels, and sometimes at 10 o'clock, no more camel milk. We produce camel chocolate, high premium chocolate product. We produce also camel burger. We produce also camel ice cream. So quite a big number of camel products. Interestingly, is my son was involved in this. He is a lawyer. He was involved opening the market for camel milk and products to Europe and America. So we got the permission from the European Union, from Brussels, a couple of years ago, only from this farm. So we send now camel chocolate to all over the place, also to Harrods, in England, to Japan, and also now, since a couple of months, camel milk powder.
Well, that is very interesting. I'm going to have to try to track some of that down, actually.
Yes, I can only say camels are on the rise.
Interesting. And then we have a comment followed by a question. The comment is that there are more reported human cases through nosocomial infections than those with close contact with calf camels, according to ProMed. And then the question is, how come the human workers in the necropsy room, are not considering a precaution in handling tissues from these camels if a direct contact is documented to be a mode of transmission?
I'm not quite clear. Can you repeat this question?
So the question, I think, refers to the photo that's up on the screen and asking about like precautions, like universal precautions for handling tissues, why there's not masks on or.
And what we do against it, or what?
Yes.
Yeah, of course, we take precautionary measures. We have procedures. We have mask. We use mask, gloves, and of course, we shower after doing the postmortem. So the normal thing what pathologists do. Yeah, so we have proper mask with glasses as well, and long armed. Not like me, I have nothing there, only a small glove, but over the elbow up to the arms. Of course, precautionary measures we do every time, not only because of MERS, because of many other diseases. So that's no problem, though. We were very, very careful in the PMO.
Thank you so much. And we have a number of thank yous for your presentation as well. So I won't go through those individually, but I also want to reiterate, thank you so much for your time. And that's all the questions we have. Is there any other statements you'd like to make before we finish up?
From my side, no. I hope I said everything. And of course, you can contact me by email if there are other questions. So as you have seen, many questions I couldn't answer because we don't know them yet. But as I said, also, we have to live with MERS. Let's see how the vaccine development, they also make some vaccines for humans. I do not know if this is very good or very important, but I think it's important to produce a potent vaccine for young camels, for camel calves.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And again, some of the comments that this was a wonderful presentation and very informative, and thank you again. So
Most welcome.
Thank everyone for attending. And again, if you have any additional questions, please send those via email, and we will try to get answers for you. And all right, thank you so much, Dr. Werney.
Okay, thank you. Take care.
Goodbye.
Bye.